Okay, what's up everyone? So what I'm going to do on this little tutorial is I'm going to go into possibly one of the most exciting things you can possibly do on Blender, and that is create a cube with marks in it. Okay, not really exciting, but part of this set of tutorials I'm doing is actually to get like brickwork effects, concrete effects, and so on. So I really wanted to create this video to show you how to kind of create a breeze block. Obviously this could be resized when you actually add it into another project so that it could become brickwork as well, but an individual block is a good starting point. Now the reason I wanted to do this as well is so that I didn't have to paint the textures on using Photoshop or a similar one. What I would actually be doing is getting the indentation right into the surface of it and right down to the corners as well. You can see I've got them all sort of indenting inwards and chipping inwards. The idea is that you'll get a lot richer appearance because of it. As I said, you won't get that painted on textures, you'll get actual proper textures. So what I'll do is I'll just show you how to do this really. I've come over here and I've got myself a cube actually up and running. Now I'm going to start off by creating its scale, so I'm going to make it x.5, I'm going to make it y1.5, and I'm going to make it z.75 and 0.75, and that gives me a good solid brick basically to work with. Now as you can see, the problem is it's very flat, and although you could go away and get a texture for this and just simply paint the texture over it, which is fine for a lot of games, you know, I mean no one's asking for a lot, but still if you really want to do something a bit more fancy, really go for it. So what we need to do first is we need to actually get this object selected and get into edit mode. And what we need to do is we need to subdivide it right down. Like with the other tutorials I've done, sometimes the smaller you can subdivide this, the better, because the smaller you can make these, the more fine detailed you can make your crafting and your actual moulding later on. Okay, what I'll do then in order to create the kind of pockmark effect is I'm going to hold down shift, I'm just going to randomly select key points. I'm not really planning where I'm putting these at the moment. I'll put a couple at the top. I don't try and fold over to a different side while I'm actually dealing with this, because I might end up accidentally you'll see later if I go onto a different side, things will get pulled and pushed the wrong way, so deal with one side at a time. If you want to actually get wider areas, just hold shift and pull out the wider areas, although that's not always the best approach because you might end up with two bigger holes basically. Anyway, so yeah, what I can do is I can just very quickly go through a few bigger ones, mostly small ones though. So the tighter you make these together, kind of the more realistic it will look, the craggier it will look. Also the problem with that is that takes a lot more work for the graphics engine to deal with later on. So you've also got to think about where you're actually putting it. If you're putting it in an already graphically heavy game, you are going to slow things down even further just for the sake of realism. So don't over worry about it. Right. Just going to do a few more of these, and there we go. So I've got all my nice little pot marks now. Okay, start off by going up here. Make sure that you've actually got your proportional editing turned on, and pick whichever one of these that you actually like the look of. I'm going to go for root on this first one. Then I'm going to press G. Now G actually does this. As you can see, it kind of pulls things out all over the place. It's a very strange effect. I'm not going to use that one. G and then followed by X. Now what we need to do is, as you can see, if I widen this circle out, you get a more bubbling effect. In fact, you can create some very lovely organic looking surfaces if you did that, strangely enough. But I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to pull it in a bit, make it nice and tight, nice and small. And if you just sort of roll your mouse button back and forth, it'll deal with how deep those actual protrusions are. Press, and as you can see, there we go, I've started getting that effect. So it's not too deep. I could make some of these deeper if I wanted to, but I can start getting that kind of pockmark effect. I can carry on doing this. Obviously I can make a few more. I could probably even make some of these where you've got bigger ones, a bit deeper. and clicking on them. And I'm going to start, while I'm doing these last few bits, I'm going to start tackling a corner as well. Again, G and then X, and then really decide how much you're going to extrude that. Press enter to lock it in place. Okay, and then we move over here, and as you can see on this one where I've selected a corner, I've got a bit of impact to it. Now the problem is it'll only go in one direction at a time, so if you need to start moving it a different direction, you need to start pushing it and pulling it. That is the only slight problem with this, is it will pick one direction and it'll go for it. But once we start getting there, once we start building it up, start popping it inwards, really start, so as you can see I'm starting to chip it down a little bit at a time, and that is something that can happen, and it looks really good when it's all done. As you can see I'm pushing it in, and it's one little movement at a time, as you can see, but it creates that lovely kind of like natural chipped effect in the corners. I might have pulled that one up a bit too far there. I probably need to pull that downwards so it doesn't look wrong, because obviously it's concrete, it would chip, but it would not go upwards, as it were. Again, if I press the middle mouse button, I can kind of flatten it down as if I need. Yeah, and can you see I'm starting to pull it downwards, get it into the right place. And after a while, it'll start to, if that's too far, after a while, it'll start to actually give the impression of something that's chipped and worn out if you do it right. It just takes a little while, takes a little bit of practice. Obviously, as I said, because it's supposed to be concrete, you can't overdo it either. You can't have things sort of coming out too far, because it'll look very strange. It'll look like it's been moulded rather than chipped. But there we go, we start getting that pattern now, as you can see. It starts to break up a bit. I still could do with bringing these flat surfaces down a bit more. They don't look correct because of how I've done them. They need to move downwards. As I said, they need to look like they're chipped, not moulded. And again, that's why smaller and smaller ones are useful. And there we go, we start getting that kind of chipped effect now in the corners, and you could spend quite a while working on those to get them perfect, but I just wanted to show you the idea behind them. And what you're going to do is basically just carry on doing that whole thing all the way around the breeze block completely, every single side. Now what you've got to remember is, on an actual build, if you say you're building a building for a computer game, unless it's something like ground level walkthroughs, you don't need actually a lot of detail on every single side of the block. In fact, if it's say like a construction game where you're far off and no one ever sees what's behind the wall, when you import that into this one into the project, you could literally just delete everything that's behind the front facing wall. Same if you're doing a 3D printing project, obviously you might want to actually reduce the size of this so it's smaller, so you're not wasting as much printing material. Anyway, but you could just carry on and building all of those up. What you can do as well is, obviously, you can paint the texture if you want to using the materials. It's not essential though, because as I said, if you're moving it into something else, you're probably going to actually create a texture for it, just to add a bit of character. On this one, as you can see, I've created a grey texture for it. I've just used the standard grey paint, the standard grey colour. It does pick up the pockmarks a bit when the light hits it, but again, a proper real texture that can go onto that would be far better in the end. That's the thing. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could probably even get this one here. I could choose its materials. So if I added a new material, say I wanted to go for something more like a red brick, and the orangey red bricks that you sometimes get. You find a good version. Again, because unfortunately these are not textured, you can see where it doesn't quite look right, and you would have to go away and create a lovely proper texture for it. But for a long shot of, say, a building on a computer game, if you put all those together, I think for the most part people would accept what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve with that. So there we go, that's my basic quick go through a tutorial about how to start doing things like bricks and blocks for your actual projects. I hope you like that, and I hope you found it useful. Now that I'm building up a few more resources, I'm getting to a point where I'm actually going to put these in a single house project, because I've done this one and I've also done my corrugated roof, and you'll see how I join them all together later on. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment below about what you would like to see me do and any other techniques you would like to see me practice. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.